Greetings and welcome back to Smartwatch Ticks. We're a YouTube channel on the web at smartwatchticks.com. We're starting to see a pattern, folks. Well, a repeat of a pattern. Somebody comes out with an incredible watch. After a few months, some company we've never heard of comes out with an exact copy of that incredible watch at a cheaper price and maybe a few enhancements. It's what we're looking at today. I'll unbox that in a second once I let you know that it's called a TICWRIS MAX 2 smartwatch. And it is basically the same thing as the LEMFO LEM T. It has the same memory configuration, 3 gigabytes, 2 gigabytes. It's got the same 2.86-inch screen. In fact, when you look at the specs, they are almost 100% identical, with a few tiny exceptions. So this video is going to be dedicated to those exceptions. The exceptions are the camera. This one claims 8 megapixels. Not sure if the LEMFO one is 8 megapixels also. Plus, there's confusion around this. Most of the time, it's a higher rating that they're saying it is because the pictures are what they call up-interpolated to a higher level. It may be a true 5 megapixel camera making images that are 8 megapixel. But either way, what we want to do is test the camera on both of them to see if that has changed in the hardware. They both use the same tethering app. All the languages are probably the same, but look carefully, gang. If your language is on this one and not on the LEMFO, then, well, there's your deciding factor for purchasing. It's using the same processor, same memory configuration, everything the same with this new addition. Look, face lock is supported on the new one, not on the LEMFO. We've got GPS, and we have several different sources for GPS. And not sure if all these sources are part of the GPS on the LEMFO LEM T either. And, custom watch faces are definitely supported on both watches. Anyway, those are the red highlights they put on the specs. So let's jump in, do a quick unboxing. We pop it out. Here it is. We'll do a comparison side by side in just a second after we show you that inside here, you also have accessories in the accessory box, which opens this way, I guess. There we go. You have the charging thing and a screwdriver for putting in your SIM card. And the charger unit is identical to what we have on the LEMFO. It's a big rectangular box like this with a fixed cord that's non-removable, which is unfortunate. It'd be great if you could just pop this module in your pocket and put any USB cord in there. But unfortunately, it is the same thing that slaps on the bottom with the charging ports, just like that. And you plug it in to charge it. So no changes in outward appearance of hardware. We've got a cover over the optical diode area. You've got the screws here for the SIM card. And sure enough, here it is on the LEM T. The backs are 100% identical. Even the wording is the same. So in all effect, it looks like it's an identical clone until you turn it on. Let's do that now. So I honestly thought this was going to be a really quick review because the outsides are the same, the insides are the same, maybe a couple of new watch faces, but no, it is totally different. Obviously, the boot up logo is going to be different because they're two different companies, but that is the closest to similar as we're going to see. This is really something. If you currently have a LEMFO LEM T, too bad. You are going to be so envious. Oh, you really are. And I've got a little treat for you at the very end of the video, but don't skip ahead. You have to watch the whole thing so that you're dutifully envious. Because what this TICWRIS can do that the LEMFO cannot do is going to blow you away. Are you ready? First of all, you see I got the little dot here. I've got floating toucher running on this one. And there's the ambient phase, and you see it came up first before the LEMFO did. And here's the LEMFO. I got the little dot. I got a floating toucher on there as well. And it starts out with 2 animated faces. When you touch it, you can make things happen. Hello? Well, it was doing it earlier. There you go. See, you can slide it around. You can twirl it. And this one, same thing. If you touch the screen just right, you can get colorful things to happen. So they both have an active wallpaper basic screen that they operate from. However, what this one can do that this one can't, you're going to get really tired of me saying that. What this one can do that this one can't is act with some other active wallpapers like this one, where you literally have the true active wallpaper floating underneath a watch face or time face. That you don't have directly on the LEMFO. This is their only canned face that does something like that. And then you got this. Looks kind of like Windows. Now I'm going to keep the little screen protector so you can really tell the Tickwris from the LEMFO, because once we leave the LEMFO logo, you're going to see there's all these other faces and you might get confused which one's which. These are all just basic faces, nothing spectacular on them. Just grab one for the heck of it. This face now, you see all of the buttons? Yep. This one does not support active complications. If you call these complications like Apple does, you find that if you touch one of them, you can go to wherever it wants you to go. There's a calendar. If you got a SIM card in it, you got your messaging, you got your basic phone for calling. There's Google Play Store, updates to weather, music player, the browser, the camera, and even sports app. That's where you can do your workouts and things. Whoa! All in a nice screen with the time and date right there. Don't like that layout? Not a problem. They gave you a couple of them. Here's another one. Big weather on this one. Heart rate on that one. Yep, all the stuff is there. It's not even capable on the LEMFO LEM T. But there's more. It turns out that you also have full support of animation. Beyond the wallpaper that we showed you, the Fire wallpaper, this is the actual change to the clock engine that allows for animations. Now, I'm going to set this aside for a little bit. Sorry. This is one of Alrod's original faces, like for the LEM 10, I think, and 11. You see how it's a nice square. Well, collaborating over the internet and over time, he has updated it to take advantage of the full screen of the LEM T. There's more. He's also played with the Surfer watch. Remember that one? Have a lot of fun with that one. Here it is, kind of square, and now with a bunch of work, frame by frame, he's got it updated to flow beautifully on the full screen of the LEM. Oops, not the LEM T, the TICWRIS MAX. Yeah, and more. He's got Earths, he's got other things here, many, many more faces. And when you get way down here, you can treat yourself to a beer. Yeah, that's his latest one. I said, I want another fun one, and here you go. All of these faces, of course, Alrod's got links down below. You can go over and donate one fee and have access to his entire premium pack. And some of these are also in his free pack if you want to make sure they work on your watch. But this one will not play on the LEM T. What you'll get is just the white time with no background. The background is sophisticated animation. We're in the app drawer now, and you can see the icons are colored and identified a little bit different. Some subtle differences in their positioning, their layout, and their look and feel. When I go into settings, you got your sound and your overall display, your app list style, which, notice, has bubble. The bubble's back. When you get back here, you go into it again. Now you've got the whole Apple bubble layout. Here you have basic matrix that you saw, or list, and of course list is going to be just your linear list type of a display. Same thing when you're in your basic app drawer. So if you want the bubble type of a display like Apple's watch, you've got it right here on the TICWRIS MAX. Now check this out. I'm going to continue scrolling down. You got pretty much the same thing for the rest of it until you get down to that famous More button. Let's go into More. Here you got it. Accounts, Google Play Services, Background Cleaner. Whoa! Screen lock settings and face unlock. You have the full screen locking and the front-facing camera unlock on the new Max. LEM T is limited by not having the ability to lock the screen at all. All the rest of these things are still the same, right down to data saver. And by the way, while we're at it, remember when you're in here, if you're going to run anything like Floating Toucher, and those of you who don't know, it's a little button that opens up that lets you do all kinds of fun things here on the screen. Got lots of reviews of that. You're going to want to go into Background Cleaner on both of these, whichever one you have. Tap on it, let it show you all the apps you have installed. And the ones that you don't want to disappear when you turn the power off, you turn them off, okay? So Floating Toucher and Display Brightness are off on this one. And a few other different apps and stuff are here that I've installed, but I don't have any of them turned off because it's fine if they get cleaned out completely. And now I want to challenge something. I'm going to come back to the paperwork for a moment. Don't usually do this, but I'd like to call your attention to three things. A 2.86-inch display, 2880 milliamp hour battery, and an 8-megapixel camera. All right? That's the Max. Okay? The TICWRIS MAX. The LEMFO LEM T. I got the same 2.86-inch screen. I've got a 5-megapixel camera rather than 8, and I have a 2700 milliamp hour battery rather than 2880. So what's going on? Well, my hypothesis is smoke and mirrors. They're exactly the same. It's really not possible for me to tell you for sure the battery in these things. We'd have to yank them apart. 2700 versus 2880. I'm just going to say they're probably identical, and it's just a different way of reporting it for some reason. Yeah, this is another one of Alrod's faces. This is a stock face. I can, however, show you some specifics on the cameras. And this is where you really need to have an education. I'm going to turn the cameras on here. There you see me in both of them. I'm going to take a picture. And there we go. And there we go. Now, the way they measure these megapixels in cameras is basically by multiplying out the information, right? So if I get information on here, let's go into here and get details and leave that up on the screen. Oh boy, am I going to be able to do that through here? Yeah, I can. Okay, details. Now, look at the dimensions, 3264 by 2448. What happens when you multiply that together? You come up with about 8 megapixels, 8 million, something or other thousand. Yet this claims it's a 5 megapixel camera, this an 8. What's going on, folks, is they're both 5 megapixel cameras, and they're both up interpolated to show an 8 megapixel image. So they could call this one 8 or this one 5. It doesn't matter. The cameras are identical. So sadly, the TICWRIS MAX is falsifying that it's an 8 megapixel camera, when in reality, LEMFO ethically is reporting it as a 5 megapixel camera. So if you're thinking of buying them based on the camera, that's the wrong metric because they're identical. And I propose to you that the batteries are likewise the same metric, just like the screens are. At least they can't fake with a 2.86 inch because you could actually measure that. So stand by what I said earlier. The physicality of the watches are the same. They are basically identical build. The difference is in the firmware. Which brings me to this. Pablo 11. You've heard me talk about him quite a bit, actually. He's a mastermind behind so much that goes on with these watches, all the way back to the actual code that goes in them that makes these things work. We mentioned firmware, and I told you, you guys that are just oogling for the firmware in the Max to put in your LEM T, that there'd be a little treat for you at the end. You guys remember when I took the bands off of this LEMFO LEM T a while back to see if the antennas were actually in the bands or not? Turns out they're not. They're actually taped onto the body, but in a screwy kind of way, so you can't like get a hold around these things and do anything with them. But the bands are removable. It doesn't break the integrity of the watch or violate the antennas. Well, in that process, I pretty much committed this one to be a sacrificial lamb just in case it didn't work and it broke. But it did work and it didn't break. And it's a LEMFO LEM T. So when I press it and hold it, it's exactly identical to this one from LEMFO running Tickwris. Yeah, watch. When this one boots up, you're going to find that if you went into settings and you went down to About Watch and you scroll down to see that it's the TICWRIS MAX running Android 711 with this kernel and build number from 2020-0107, the firmware that runs on this platform, the 3 gigabyte, 32 gigabyte version now, not a 1 gigabyte, 16 gigabyte, or anything else, but the version that comes in the original LEM T, that comes in the TICWRIS MAX, is universal in that it will work across the board. So when you flash the firmware from Tickwris to the LEMFO LEM T, you have a Tickwris watch, complete with everything that we've seen, the animated faces. It's got the ability to do the active complications. It's got everything that we just showed you that works on this one, the buttons, the same stock. Everything does what it's supposed to do. Heart rate sensors right there, just the same. So, what you got are some options now. I'm not going to take the time to do that. You know it'll work. I hope it'll work. You have options. You can pick up the LEMFO LEM T and be happy as a clam with it, knowing that it's really an 8 megapixel up interpolated camera and probably a 2880 milliamp hour battery, and of course 3 gigabytes, 32 gigabytes at a higher price. Or you can pick up the brand new TICWRIS MAX with the 2880 battery and the 8 megapixel up interpolated camera and all of the features that it will do. Or you can flash the firmware to your existing LEMFO LEM T if you've already got one. Any which way you cut it, you've got yourself a really amazing watch that's doing the kind of things that we wish these watches could do and have now incorporated into them. And don't forget, you can get these fun animated faces from Alrod and some fancy ones that have the complications on them too. I wanted to show you a couple in here. I'm going to go way down here. All these are stuff that he's sent over. Here's a bunch more that are from different places. I just load them up. I love it. So I've been playing with this one to check out a bunch of the watch faces. Here, check this out. This is one of Alrod's faces. It's got the time, and every one of these dots is a complication point that you can touch, that you can go into and get it to launch into all these different things. Just like you saw in the squares or rectangles, he's got them set up in a variety of different watch faces that you look at this one here. This is amazing. I don't know, 8 or 9 of them in here, including a flashlight. You got to install a couple of third-party apps for the calendar or calculator and the flashlight and a couple of other things. But when you do, you got full functionality right from the watch face screen, but only on the TICWRIS MAX or the LEMFO LEM T running the Tickwris firmware. Am I getting them all mixed up? This is the real Tickwris. This is the LEMFO with the firmware from here, and this is the original. You've been watching Smartwatch Ticks. Really is fun to play with you with all this technology integration. If you want information about how to flash the firmware, if you want to get that firmware, you're going to follow the link down below. You're going to go to www.fullandroidwatch.com. Only trust firmware that you download from there of being 100% okay. I got this directly from Pablo 11, flashed it on here. No problems whatsoever. It works like a champ. Pick up your watch at Banggood. Either one, the TICWRIS MAX or the LEMFO LEM T. I'm going to try to have the latest, newest, deepest discount coupons for both of these for you in the show notes. And if you haven't got one yet, these are the places to get it. It helps us out, helps me to be able to have these here to do these things to help you learn what you can do with them. So it serves everybody around. All right, we'll see you again soon. Thanks, guys, for watching. Oh, one more thing. Just check this out. Watch, when I scroll over and I scroll over on the LEM T, you get to the fitness section, right? Or you can get to it by scrolling down to the fitness app. Okay, on the new TICWRIS MAX, when I scroll over and scroll again, I can't go any further. It does not have that last panel. However, when I go into the fitness app, you might notice a difference. 3 dots at the top, 2 dots over here. I scroll over, I got records. I scroll over, I got records, but I scroll one more and I got GPS. Yep. The fitness app has been updated for the GPS so that if I actually start an event on both of them, you notice the difference is it tries to invoke GPS, gives you a countdown, and then starts recording with the flashing blue distance indicator, meaning it's attempting to acquire your distance by GPS. This one goes right into it, has just a plain constant blue. When I scroll over, the real indicator is, it just says finish, and that bails out of it. Here, I have to long press to bail out of it. And of course, when you go down, you could save it or discard it. But the difference being that the distance calculated on the old version is from your pedometer step count, whereas it's integrated with GPS in the new version in the TICWRIS MAX.